Welcome to this platform. So in this video, let us look at chapter 3, that is movement into and out of a cell for IGCSE Biology 0610 for exams in the year 2026, 2027 and 2028. So this material caters for core and extended. So if you're writing exams, that is February, March, May, June or October, November, this is the latest material that you need to go through. At the end of the lesson, we are going to answer questions, that is paper 2 questions from the extended, that is multiple choice questions from 2021 to 2025. And I urge you to stay up to the end of the presentation. All right, what do we need to know about movement into and out of a cell? So here, the major thing that you need to know is that substances rather are able to move in and out of the cell through three processes. So what are the three processes that we are going to look at here? We are going to look at diffusion, we are going to look at osmosis, we are going to look at the active transport. So these are the processes that we are going to focus on. Let us look at diffusion. So what is really diffusion? So to define diffusion, we can say is a net movement of particles from the region of their higher concentration. Very important that you mark this word, diffusion, from the region of their higher concentration to the region of their lower concentration. Also very important that you mark this one. Lower concentration, down concentration gradient. Also this very important that you mark this one. So therefore, diffusion is as a net movement of particles from the region of their higher concentration to the region of their lower concentration, down concentration gradient as a result of their random movement. Okay, so the random movement of particles in this case and their kinetic energy allows the diffusion, or is the one that facilitate or allows diffusion to occur. So very important that you know the definition. As we start looking at the question, this is going to play a vital role in understanding or in answering the questions. So very important that you understand this part and the ways that are involved. Okay, so let us look at maybe these processes or how these processes work, or how this process work rather. All right, so the process of diffusion, mostly, let me try to explain something here. So this process is the one in which gaseous exchange or gases, let's say for example oxygen, diffuse from the surface of the ovulus to the blood stream. So this is the ovulus. So the surface of the ovulus here, oxygen diffuse into the blood capillaries. What is the reason why it diffuse? It is because oxygen is in higher concentration in the ovular surface compared to inside the blood capillary. So for that, it is able to diffuse from the ovulus into the bloodstream. Equally, carbon dioxide is able to diffuse out of the ovulus because there's more carbon dioxide inside the blood capillaries compared to the ovulus. As a result, carbon dioxide diffuse from higher concentration to lower concentration. So that is one of the example that you need to have in mind even as we start looking at the questions. So very important that you understand that part. Now, this diffusion is affected by certain factors or influenced by certain factors. So we look at the factors now that influences diffusion. What are the factors that influence diffusion? So one of them is the surface area. Now, when you are talking of a surface area, we are just looking at how spread the particles are. The more spread the particles are, the higher the rate of what? Diffusion. So we are saying the larger the surface area, the higher the rate of what? Diffusion. And this is because the more molecules, because more molecules at a given time will be able to diffuse. Okay, so that is the reason why we are saying large surface area increases the rate of diffusion, which means the smaller the surface area, the lower the rate of diffusion. let's say you have particles here on this surface area. As you can see, this is large, then of course just the small one. Okay, so this one diffusion rate is higher, then this one diffusion rate is what? Is lower. Okay, so that is something that you should know. Then the other one that we can talk of is temperature. So what about temperature? So the higher the temperature, the higher the rate of what? Diffusion. And this is because molecules move faster or are faster and have kinetic energy with higher temperature. So the particles of gas, when they are heated, they move faster or even faster, increasing the rate of diffusion. So it has to do with the energy that the particles possesses when you heat them. So the reason why the higher the temperature, the higher the rate of diffusion. Then when you talk of the concentration gradient, we are looking at the concentration gradient. Let's say this is the membrane. Then of course here we have a lot of particles, then just a few here. The more particles are here, and of course few particles here, creates the large concentration or higher concentration gradient. So it has to be higher concentration gradient and not lower concentration gradient. So sometimes you find question, which of the factors increases the diffusion or the diffusion of the gas, let's say oxygen. So one, it has to be the higher concentration concentration gradient, and of course more oxygen particles on one side. In other words, concentration gradient, we can look at for this one, the higher the concentration gradient, the higher the rate of what? Diffusion. Because the great difference in their concentration creates that great concentration gradient, increasing the rate of diffusion. I guess you've picked something here. So that is what you need to know. Then what about distance? So distance, just looking at the distance at which the particles cover in terms of movement. So the shorter the distance, the higher the rate of diffusion. So the shorter distance particles have to move, the quicker the particles is going, or the quicker the process is going to be. Okay, so very important that you understand the thing of distance. Then now, so that is what we needed to know about diffusion, or some of the things are going to be covered as we look at the question. Let us now focus our attention on another process otherwise known as osmosis. So osmosis is another process by which substances move in and out of a cell. Now, when you talk of osmosis, one thing should come to your mind is that osmosis, there's movement of water, or it involves the movement of water molecule. Now, before we talk of the process of osmosis, or we discuss its definition, let us look at the function of water. Why is water unique in this process? So water, one, acts as medium in which substances are moved around the body, so act as the medium in which the substances are moved around the body, are needed also for digestion as well as for excretion. Now, water moves in and out of the cell through the membrane, so it crosses the membrane. Okay, so water move in and out of the cell through the membrane, and this membrane is the partially permeable membrane. So this membrane is partially permeable membrane, or selectively permeable membrane. Now, why is it called partially permeable or selectively permeable? It is because it allows only certain molecules to pass through it, and this is based on size. Large material are able to cross out into the cell. Large material are unable to close into the cell, but small molecules are able to close without difficulties into the cell. In other words, it selects material to enter or to leave the cell based on its size. Okay, so partially permeable membrane. All right, now let us define now osmosis. With what we've looked at, it's very important now that we define osmosis. Now, what is osmosis? Now, very important also that you understand the key words here that I'm going to underline. So osmosis is a net movement of water molecule. So what is involved here is water molecules from the region of, also is from the region of high water potential. So this time around, we are talking about high water potential to the region of lower water potential. Now, the one with high water potential is the dilute solution, and the one with lower water potential is the concentrated solution, and this occurs across or through the partially permeable membrane. Now, let's just pause a bit here and discuss this water potential. What is water potential? Okay, so water potential is just the measure of that is the measure of water or um, energy status of water in the system. So it's simply the measure of energy status of water in the system, and it is usually expressed in the unit of pressure. Now, very important that you understand here. So let me say usually expressed in units, okay, of pressure. Now, units of pressure, you know that pressure is measured in in pascals, but here we use kilopascals. Now, why am I bringing out this one? Because I've seen questions with pressure numbers in terms of pressure, then they ask you where would be the movement of water. So we are saying water potential is just the measure of energy status of water in the system, and it is usually expressed in the unit of pressure, and of course in this case kilopascal. Now, listen, let me just give two numbers here so that you understand the thing. Let's have the number, let's say 200 kilopascal and 400 kilopascal. Between these, that is negative, please. Between these, so negative 200 kilopascal and 400 kilopascal, between these, which one has high water potential? Which one has high water potential? Okay. So the more negative the value of pressure is, the lower the water potential. So in other words, this is concentrated. It has lower water potential because it's more negative. Okay, as you can see, negative 400. Then this one is low. It has high water potential. So if you have two solutions with negative 200 kilopascal and 400, that is negative 400 kilopascal. Which one has high water potential? It is the first one. Lower water potential is negative 400. Now, the movement of water, or water move from the region of high water potential to the region of lower water potential. So in other words, the water will move, if you had these two solutions, the water will move from negative 200 to negative 400 kilopascal. You are going to understand this better as we look at the question. So very important that you take note of this particular thing. All right, now this is the demonstration of osmosis. So here, what you are able to see, these dark ones, we are going to put them as solute, and these are water molecules. Now, look at this. This side, you have a lot of water molecules. These actually, you only have water molecules, but here you have even this solute, which means this solution is concentrated and this is dilute. And therefore, this is a reason why you have the net movement of water from the high water potential where there's more water molecules to where there's the low water molecules. So very important you understand the definition of osmosis. I guess you've gotten a thing here. All right, now the other thing, we are going to investigate osmosis. Now, in this case, we are going to use what we call the dialysis tubing. So using the dialysis tubing, let us investigate osmosis. Now, let us say in the dialysis tubing, so this is the dialysis tubing, please. So we have this, and of course, there is tide. Then we have inside this dialysis tubing, we have water, is labeled here, or let me say distilled water. Distilled water is simply pure water. Then outside it, we have sugar solution. Now, very important to understand that in terms of water potential, the distilled water or the water has high water potential compared to the sugar solution. We want to understand the net movement of water. So what will be the net movement of water? Now, this dialysis tubing, it acts as the partially permeable membrane. In other words, it can allow things or substances to diffuse out of it. But the fact that we are looking at osmosis, in this case, we are just dealing with the sugar solution and water molecule. We have more water inside than outside. So we are going to see water move to the outside, causing the volume of the dialysis tubing to decrease, and of course the volume of the sugar solution outside to increase. These are the things that you expect to find in terms of the question. So water always move from where there's high water potential to where there's low water potential and across the membrane. That is osmosis. But if you had sugar solution inside the dialysis tubing and of course water outside, water was going to go into the tubing, reducing the volume of water outside, increasing the volume of the sugar solution inside the tubing. So always water has to move from the region of high concentration. So from the region of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration. All right. So at this particular point, if you happen to have a question, you can just type in the question in the comment section and we'll be able to see the question and of course answer it. Otherwise, if there's no problem, we can proceed to look at the other things. All right, so now on this particular part, we are going to look at effects of plant tissue on immersing or on immersing them in the solution of different concentration. So what is the effect of putting the plant tissue in different solution that is of different concentration? Now let me put this first part, I'll put this one to be, let me put, now when we talk of this solution, it can be the sugar solution, can be the salt solution. So let me put this one to be the sugar solution. Okay, so sugar solution. So the first one is the sugar solution. Then of course I'll put this one. Let me say this one is distilled water. Let me put distilled water. Okay, so now getting a plant cell now here, let us put the plant cell right here because we are saying animal tissue. So we are going to put a plant cell here. You know that a plant cell has a vacuum, and also here we are going to put a plant cell. It can be any tissue of a plant. Sometimes what is used are potato tissues or potato cylinders, but you need to know that potato is plant. So if you put this in the solution, now look at this. This is sugar solution, which means this solution is more concentrated compared to the inside cell. Now, if it's more concentrated compared to the inside cell, the plant cell is going to lose water, and what will happen? It will become plasmolized. In other words, if you have a plant cell like this, what will happen is that the cell membrane would, the cytoplasm would detach from the wall. It will detach, and of course, inside it shrink. So it will appear like this, which means this one has become plasmolized. So lose water by osmosis and become plasmolized, and in this state, the cell is flaccid. Okay, so in other words here, what you should understand is that when you put a plant cell into the sugar solution, it loses water and become plasmolized and of course flaccid. Okay. Now, what of if you put it in distilled water? It means that outside there's high water potential compared to the concentration of the vacuum inside, and therefore water is going to move into the cell. Now, one thing that you should know that the plant cell has the cell wall outside, which is a tough material that keeps it in shape even when it absorbs a lot of water. So in this case, when water enters the cell, it is going to become what we call turgid. So it becomes turgid. In other words, it swells. So in other words, here the cell become turgid. Okay, turgid. It become turgid. It gains water by osmosis and become turgid. Where now this the water inside pushes against the walls. Okay, and that is what we call the turgor pressure. So pressure or turgor pressure is just a pressure inside the cell that is as a result of osmotic gain of water pushing the cell against or pushing against the walls. Okay, so that is what we call a turgor pressure. So in other words, the key thing is that when the cell is in distilled water, it gains water and become turgid. When it is in the salt solution, which is more concentrated compared to the cell, loses water, become plasmolized, and of course flaccid. Okay. Then what about if it is just put in a certain solution known as isotonic solution? We have the solution of, now this one, they have equal concentration. The concentration inside the cell and of course the solution are equal. So in this case, the cell, nothing will happen. There will be no end effect. And that is what we call isotonic solution. So isotonic solution is the one in which the concentration of a cell and that of the solution are equal. But this one where outside is more, it has high water potential compared to the inside. In other words, the inside is more concentrated compared to the outside is called a hypotonic solution. So hypotonic solution. Okay. Then of course the first one here is called hypertonic solution. Just a solution which is more concentrated compared to the inside cell. But what is important to you is to know what happens when you put a cell in the concentrated solution, when you put the plant tissue in less concentrated solution, when you put the tissue in the solution equal to the concentration of the cell. So very important that you understand those. And I guess you've picked something from this part. Okay. Now, let us look at the last process, which is active transport. Now, as the name suggests, active, which means in this case, the process is active and energy is used. So, with osmosis and diffusion, the process are not active. They do not use energy. Something that I needed to put across. They do not use energy. And in all the two, particles move from the region of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration. No energy is involved. The processes are passive. But when it comes to active transport, this uses energy from respiration. Very important that you understand. This uses energy from respiration. And this process occurs where diffusion and osmosis fails, or it cannot apply, or it cannot be relied upon. For example, absorption of mineral salts or mineral ions by the root hair cell. Now, it's very important that as you meet the question, when you hear of transportation of mineral ions, when it talks of mineral ion, nitrate ion, anything ions, just know that it involves active transport. So, diffusion osmosis cannot apply where diffusion osmosis cannot apply. That is where now active transport take place. Examples that we have here is absorption of mineral salts and absorption of mineral salts by the root hair cell. Then also absorption of nutrients, that is in the epithelial cell. So glucose, absorption of nutrients, when you talk of nutrients, is glucose. So absorption of glucose into the epithelial cells also involves active transport. Now, what is active transport? So active transport in this case is just a movement of particles through a cell membrane. So very important that here it involves the living cell, okay, living or cell membrane from the region, this time around, take note, from the region of lower concentration to the region of higher concentration. This is against So against, I can add against concentration, what? Against concentration gradient. So for it, it goes against concentration gradient using energy from respiration. So this process is whereby materials are already higher inside, then now you need to still to take more where they are in higher concentration. For example, you still have, or let's say you have a lot of glucose in the bloodstream, but the fact that you've eaten and this digestion has taken place, you still need, or glucose still need to be transported equally or even where they are in higher concentration. So that is where active transport now comes in. So very important, the key word you need to understand here is that for this one involves the movement of particles through a cell membrane from the region of lower concentration to the region of higher concentration using energy from respiration. So very important that you understand this part. But also we are going to look at also in terms of the protein carriers that are involved in movement of materials across the cell membrane. So active transport. So in the cell membrane, all cells, there are certain, they are embedded with. So in the cell membrane, how is it possible that it's able to move across the cell membrane? So all cells are embedded with proteins. I think this is what I said I'm going to explain. These proteins are the ones that carry these ions, these glucose, and these are called protein carriers. So we can say in the cell membrane of all cells, there are certain embedded proteins, or there are protein molecules called protein carriers, and this captures the molecules from one side of the cell and changes its shape, enabling it to transport the molecule to the other side. So that is actually how active transport work. So this diagram is from the questions. I just extracted it from the question and of course incorporated it in the notes. So as you can see here, glucose. So you can see here, glucose is in higher concentration this side, and on the other side is in lower concentration, but it is still transported to the other side. Now, how are they transported? So we have this protein here, this protein called the protein carrier. It has captured the glucose and now change its shape, so it's going to turn, and as you can see here, pushing or moving the glucose the other side. So here, that is what happened afterward. The glucose find itself on the other side, and the key thing here is that it involves protein carriers. So it is captured by proteins and then moved, or it changes its shape, enabling it to transport molecules to the other side of the cell. So very important that you understand this part. All right, so that was the end of the topic. It is a short topic, and now from what we've looked at, let us look at the questions. Quite a number of questions that we are going to find, and very interesting questions. Let us look at the questions now on the movement into and out of a cell. Like I said, we are going to look at questions, multiple choice questions, paper 2 from extended. That is from 2021 to 2025. And of course, answers I'm going to explain at all point. This is the benefit of going through my lessons, because you have one-stop revision. So let us look at the question. So the first question is extracted from, is extracted from a 2025 paper, that is variant paper 2 variant 1, May June 2025. Okay, so that is where it is extracted. That is, or that was on question 4. A student made the following statement about the movement of ion by active transport. Okay, the student made the following statement about the movement of ion by active transport. 1, it is a net movement of particles from a lower concentration to the higher concentration. Yes, that is true. It is a net movement of particles from higher concentration. No. Immediately you see higher concentration, that is a no. It requires the use of energy from respiration. Yes. It takes place in a living cell. So it takes place in living cells. Yes, because this one takes place across the membrane. So yes. So in other words here, the answer is going to have 1, 3, and 4. And therefore, we are going for A as the answer. Look at how question comes. Now, this one, the other question that we are answering here, we answer this other question is coming from paper 2, variant 3, still May, June 2025. What happened when the plant cells are placed in sugar solution? Remember, sugar solution is concentrated. That, okay, not yet. So when it is placed in sugar solution that has low water potential, yeah, so low water potential, it means it's concentrated, than the cytoplasm of a cell. So which means low water potential outside, more water inside the cell. Now, in this case, water always move from the high water potential where there's low water potential. So what happened? The cell gains water and become flaccid. No, flaccid is when it loses water. The cell gain water and become turgid. No, it cannot gain water because outside there's less water. The cell lose water and become flaccid. Yes. So the answer here is C. Which row shows the condition when diffusion of oxygen into the blood is the fastest? Which row shows the condition when diffusion of oxygen into the blood is the fastest? Now look at this. This is something that I'm explaining. Ovular surface, or ovulus is the surface where gaseous exchange take place. So for oxygen to diffuse into the blood, the ovular surface should have high oxygen concentration. Then, of course, the distance should be short. Then concentration gradient should be high. So high, high, short. So we are looking for high, high, short. So that is the answer. Question 7, still coming from this paper, which is paper 2, variant 2, May, June 2025. Uncooked potato cylinders. So uncooked potato cylinders. Now, you need to know that potato cylinders are plant tissue. Of identical size were placed in 4 different solutions for 2 hours. Pure water. So in pure water has high water potential. So you expect them to gain water and become turgid. Then sugar solution that has less concentration than the content of the potato. So equally here, since it is less concentrated, which means that high water potential. So which means also the potato gained water. Then sugar solution was more concentrated. If it was more concentrated, then it will lose and shrink. Then the sugar solution that was the same concentration, nothing will change. It will remain the same. Now, what is the question? In which liquid will the potato cylinder increase in length? So it is in 1 and 2, and the answer is A. Question 5, that is the paper or the question coming from the paper 2, that is 2025, paper 2, variant 2, February, March 2025. The diagram shows 4 mesophyll cells, W, X, Y, and Z. Water moves through the cells. The diagram shows 4 mesophyll cells, W, X, Y, and Z. Water moves through these cells. Which arrow shows the direction of movement of water through the cells? Now look at this. These cells that you are able to see, are water potential. Now remember what I explained. The lower the water potential, so if you have low water potential, the lower the pressure, the higher the water potential. So the lowest number here has high water potential. Then the higher the number or the more negative the number is, the more concentrated the solution. And you know that osmosis from the region of high water potential to the region of lower water potential. So this cannot be this. Now look at this. In terms of movement, want it the one that will be going this side. Okay? So which one is going to be? Okay? Or this side. But we need to find the order in which the water potential is in terms of concentration. So it cannot be 600 because 600 is concentrated, has low water potential, and the arrow points this side. So water cannot move from W to Z because this one is low water potential. Then when you talk of B, Yes, it can start from B. Water can move from 350 to 400 to 450 to 600 because this is the high water potential. The less negative the number is, the higher the water potential. Can move to that. Let us look at this other, pointing this side. We can start from here. Cannot move from concentrated. So also this one cannot. So the answer therefore here is B. And I guess you've gotten sense out of this, out of what I've explained. You picked something. 3 processes are listed. 1, molecules or ions are moved across the membrane. So when you say molecules or ions is active transport. Molecules or ions moved by protein carrier, that is active transport. Ions are taken up by the root hair cell, that is still active transport. So which processes can involve active transport? So molecules or ions are moved by the protein carrier. Molecules, ions are moved across. Now here, the problem is across. So it doesn't move across, but instead it's against. Okay? So 2 and 3 is the answer. Okay, tell me, what is your answer here? So you should be able also to analyze the question and of course answer from your reasoning. Let us look at this one. This one is coming from paper 220, that is paper 2 variant 1, October, November 2024. Cylinders of potato tissue were left in different concentration of sucrose solution for 1 hour. The graph shows the percentage change in the length of the potato cylinder after 1 hour. So here you have the percentage of change in the potato cylinder. Then of course here we have concentration of sucrose solution in mole per decimeter. Then what can be concluded about the cell of the potato that was placed in 0.2? So when you look at 0.2, if we are to follow it up, and now pick it from here, you see that there was no change. It is at 0, 0. So what is the answer here? The cell in the potato cylinder became flaccid? No, it did not become flaccid because there was no change anyway. Then the cell in the potato cylinder became plasmolized? No, there was no change. The net movement of water in and out of a cell were equal to, so the net movement of water into the potato cell were equal to the net movement of water out of the potato cell. So this is the solution. And I guess you understand what is happening here. So C, we are going for C as the answer. What is your answer here from your analysis? The diagram below shows the water potential of 3 plant cells. The more negative the value, the higher the solute concentration. So they've brought out that thing that I've already explained. So the more negative the value, so which means the least in terms of concentration is this one. So least in terms of concentration is Q. Then high concentrated, or I mean the least in terms of water potential is Q. The one with higher water potential is this, followed by this. Now, water can only move from P to Q or from R to P and then PQ. So let us see. What is the immediate movement of water that will occur between the 3 cells? So P to Q, can P to Q happen? Yes. And from R to P, can R to P happen? Yes. And P to Q. So here the answer is A. Question 5, this is paper 2, variant 3, October, November, that is 2024. The diagram represents substances moving across the cell membrane using energy from respiration. So the moment they tell you using energy from respiration, just know that that is active transport. So what method of transport does the diagram represent? So no doubt active transport. And you can see there are a few here, a lot here, and this is the protein carrier. Okay. A sample of plant tissue or cells from the same species. Sample of plant cells from the same species are immersed in 3 different liquids. The low concentration sugar solution, So we have the low concentration sugar solution has high water potential than the cell cytoplasm. So low sucrose has high water potential than the cytoplasm. The higher or the high concentration solution has low water potential compared to. Okay. So distilled water, what will happen when you put a cell in distilled water? It will be turgid, not flaccid. Flaccid becomes soft as a result of losing water. So it will be turgid. So we are looking at A and D. Low concentration sucrose solution. In this one, we are told that it has more water compared to the cell. So also you expect to be turgid. The fact that here it plasmolized, so the answer is D. Let us check the last one. High concentration sucrose, we said, or high concentration sucrose, it has less water potential compared to the inside cytoplasm. So the cell is going to lose water and become plasmolized. So the answer is D. Which processes require energy from respiration? Active transport. As simple as that. The first one, question 5. This one came on question 5. That is paper 2, variant 1, May, June 2024. Which description of the condition of plant cell after 1 hour is correct? Some plant cells are placed in distilled water for 1 hour. So distilled water for 1 hour. So when you hear of distilled water, has high water potential compared to the cell inside. So distilled water, it means that there's more water outside compared to the inside cell. So therefore, water will move into the cell and the cell will become turgid. Okay, turgid. Let us look at this one, paper 2, variant 3, May, June 2024. What will increase the rate of diffusion across the gas exchange surface? What will increase the rate of diffusion across a gas exchange surface? Okay, so A, decrease in concentration gradient. Concentration gradient need to be high. Decrease in diffusion distance, yes, one of them. Decrease in kinetic energy. Kinetic energy need to be high. Remember, temperature. Decrease in surface area. Surface area need to be large or high surface area. So in other words here, that will increase is the decrease in diffusion distance. This same year, question 6, what happens when the potato plant cells are placed in pure water? So when they are placed in pure water, they gain water and become turgid. So water enters the cell and they become turgid. Not leaves, not leaves. Water enters the cell and become plasmolized? No. So the answer here is B. Look at this. Which diagram represents active transport? So first thing first, you need to know that this is the starting part. As you can see the arrow, this is the start, where it is starting from, and where it is going, it is the other end, the end part. So on this part where I'm saying start, you need to have few particles compared to the other side. Now, again, the other thing here, there are description here. So the first one requires energy from respiration, does not require energy. The moment you see does not require energy is not part of your answer. So you deal with A and B. Now look at A and B. So in this case, the answer is B. As you can see, particles on the start part, they are in few compared to the other side. This one came, that is paper 2, variant 2, February, March 2024. What is the reason why oxygen diffuses into the blood from the ovulus in the lungs? The reason why it diffuses because you have more in the ovular surface compared to the blood stream. So A, oxygen concentration in the ovulus is greater than the carbon dioxide? No. B, oxygen concentration is in the ovulus is greater than oxygen concentration in the blood? Yes. Okay. Let us look at this one. So this one is paper 2, variant 2, February, March 2025. I guess it's just a continuation of this. Yeah, 7, 8. So it's just a continuation. Now look at this. We have two cells here. Cell X, higher water potential. Cell Y, low water potential. Water will move to this. So it will be, which statement describe what will happen to the water in the cells? Equal, that is equal movement between cells? No. Net movement from X to Y. Yes. That is the answer without doubt. Then question 9. Which road describe active transport? So look at this. The first one moves substances from lower concentration to higher concentration. Yes, they should be yes. So these that have no, ignore them. Require energy from respiration. Yes. So still on yes. Require protein carriers. Yes. So it's yes, 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 yes throughout. So this is the D. Then still the same, not the same one, please. This one is paper 2, variant 1, October, November 2023. So enter 2023. What is the color changes shown by Benedict solution when heated with reducing sugar? Okay, so this one is a wrong question on this particular topic, but of course we can answer it. But we are going to look at the other topic, that is macromolecules. We should be able to look at this, okay, or biological molecules. We should be able to look at this under food test. But to answer the question, it changes from blue to red. Benedict solution is blue in color. Then when you heat it, presence of sugar, it turns it to, can be in terms of, can be yellow, brick red, or red. So the answer is B. All right, let us look at this question. That is paper 2, variant 3, October, November 2023. Which processes require active transport? Auxin movement from the ovilus to the blood? No. Ion uptake by the root hair cell? Yes. Water movement through the plant by transpiration pool? No. Absorption of water in the lacteum? No. So the answer is B. I guess you are enjoying the questions. The diagram shows an experiment to investigate osmosis in living cells. So here you have the sugar solution here, then you have the potato or fresh potato tissue, then you have concentrated. In other words, it's put in concentrated solution. What happened to the volume of water and sugar solution after 12 hours? So you expect water to move toward the sugar solution, therefore the water volume will decrease, then the sugar solution will increase. So you are looking for volume for water, decrease, then sugar solution, increase, which is A. The same year, let us look at question 7. Which statement about active transport are correct? So one, active transport, it transports the particles from the lower concentration to higher. Yes. It always transports particles into the cells. Let us look at this. Let us put this one on hold. It involves protein molecules in the cell membrane. Yes. It uses energy from respiration. Yes. So it always transports particles into the cells. So here the answer is 1, 3, and 4. 1, 3, and 4. B question, or me B as the answer. Let us look at this one. That is paper 2, variant 1, May, June 2023. The diagram shows the experiment demonstrating osmosis using the dialysis tubing bag. So this I've explained at some point. So glass tube, and we have the water, then sugar solution, then dialysis tubing bag. Now water is outside, so water is going to go here, increasing the volume in the glass tube here, decreasing, so here it will decrease, then here it will increase. After 30 minutes, the level of liquid in the glass tube will go up, and water had a dash water potential. After 30 minutes, the level of liquid in the glass tube will go up or goes up because the water had high water potential. So you're looking at up, high, which is the D. All right, this is the question where I got that diagram. So this is paper 2, variant 1, May, June 2023. The diagram shows the movement of glucose molecules across the cell membrane. What or which statement describe T? So T is the protein carrier. So it's not a fat molecule. It's not a fat molecule, but it's a protein molecule used to transport glucose down the concentration gradient. Is it down? No, it's against. Used to transport glucose against the concentration gradient. The diagram below shows the root hair cell. So this is paper 2, variant 2, May, June 2023. When does water enter the cell by osmosis. So water can only enter the cell by osmosis if outside you have high water potential, then inside you have low water potential. So A, when the concentration of sucrose or solute outside the cell is greater, no. When the concentration of solute inside and outside are equal, no. When the water potential inside the cell is higher, no. When the water potential outside cell is higher than the inside one. So the answer is D. Which row shows the changes that occur during germination of seed? So during germination of seed, respiration increases, amount of energy required also increases, then also the ions absorbed by active transport. So the answer is D. When a plant cell is put into pure water, so it's put into pure water, what happens? It gains water. It gains water by osmosis and become turgid. Okay, so gains turgid. Question 6. Okay, so this question, the graph shows the result of investigation into the effect of oxygen on the uptake of glucose by cells. What conclusion can be made from the data? So before I even read the question, before I even analyze the data, this question you are going to answer it. So this one is coming from paper 2, variant 3, May, June, that is 2023. What is the answer to this question, and provide the explanation to that so that every one of us will be able to learn, and also your colleague. Let us look at this one, paper 2, variant 2, February, March, that is 2023. Which molecules crosses the partially permeable membrane during osmosis? So it's water. Osmosis deals with water. Then, of course, we have another question that is on the graph. The graph shows the rate of uptake of magnesium ion. So we have magnesium ion by two similar plants, X and Y. The roots of each plant were placed in so the roots of each plant were placed in the solution. Each solution contained the different concentration of magnesium ion. All other conditions were kept constant. Now, if all other conditions were kept constant, look at this. Magnesium ion uptake, then concentration of ions in D. So this one that is outside has high rate of uptake compared to the one that is inside. Now, what is the possible explanation for the difference in the result of two plants? Plant Y has few protein carriers. No, if it had few protein carriers, it cannot be fast. Plant Y has high rate of respiration. Okay, so this one sounds like it. High rate of respiration, which means more energy. Plant Y has more root hair cell. Then root hair cell in the plant Y had low water potential. So for me, I would go for respiration, because respiration, in other words, active transport is powered by respiration. It uses energy from respiration, and ions are transported by active transport. So I'll go for B. Y has more or has higher rate of what? Respiration. Did we leave out any question? Yes. So question 7 also is on food test. But just to answer it, which substance is used to test a food for vitamins? So it's DCPIP. We are going to look at what this means under that topic. Let us look at paper 2, that is variant 1, October, November 2022. Some examples of substances moving across the membrane are listed. Glucose molecules into the epithelial cell, nitrate ion from dilute solution into more concentrated. Water molecules, mesophyll. So this one. Which examples must oxygen be present? So now, which example must oxygen be present? When oxygen is present, it means that powers what? Respiration. So in other words, which one is, or which one requires energy? So it's 1 and 2. So the answer therefore is B. Question 6, the diagram or the graph shows how the Target pressure inside the plant cell varies when the cell is placed in the external solution of different concentration. So Target pressure. Target pressure, if you have a cell, is just a pressure pushing against the wall from inside. So from inside pushing against the wall. And this is when the the plant cell has absorbed a lot of water. So when you have here, it means you have the highest Target pressure, then Target pressure decreases, and at X there's literally 0 Target pressure. What statement or what is the state of the cell at X? If there's no Target pressure, which means there's lost water, and that is the plasmolysis or flaccid. It has gained water and is flaccid? No. Gained water and turgid? No. Has lost water and flaccid? Yes. So the answer is C. Let us look at this paper 2, variant 2, October, November, that is 2022. Some examples of substances moving across the membrane are listed below. So this one just the same as the one that we are from answering anyway. Glucose molecules into the epithelial cells or glucose molecules into the epithelial that lines the small intestine. Nitrate ion from the dilute solution they saw into more concentrated solution in root hair cell. Water molecules from the mesophyll cells into the cell space of the leaf. From which examples must oxygen be present? So it is in 1 and 2. Plant tissue is placed in the solution. What would cause plasmolysis of the plant cell? So plasmolysis as a result of loss of water. So which means outside there's less water potential, which means it's concentrated outside. So the external solution having a higher water potential than the plant cell. Having higher water potential than the plant cell? No. External solution having lower water potential compared to the plant cell? Yes. Water moving out of the cells or plant cells? Yes. Water moving into. So it is 1 and 3. Do we have 1 and 3? Yes. Let us look at this one. That is paper 2, variant 3, October, November 2022. Some examples of substances moving across the membrane are listed below. So this is just from the question that we answered previously. Okay, so we said it's 1 and 2 only. These questions were repeated. This is paper 2, variant 3, October, November 2022, which is just a continuation of what we've looked at, in which diagram would most oxygen molecule diffuse across the membrane per minute. So most oxygen diffuse. So this is diffusion. So it has to be from the region of higher to the region of lower. So this one, 30 degree, you can see there are a few particles here. So not this one. Then here, this is not a membrane that we are looking for. So it has to be a straight membrane. So from the higher to lower, and therefore the answer is C. This is paper 2, 2022, May, June 2022. Which statement describes the net movement of particles during diffusion? Which statement describes the net movement of particles during diffusion? From higher to lower, concentration, down concentration gradient, yes. From higher to lower, against, no. From lower to higher, no. Lower to higher, so it's from higher to lower, down concentration gradient. Question 6, the diagram shows the section through the mesophyll cells of the leaf. Which part is partially permeable? So the part that is partially permeable is cell membrane, which is B. Let us look at paper 2, 2022, February, March, that is 2022. That is paper 2, variant 2, February, March, 2022. The diagram shows a cross-section through a leaf. Which arrows shows the direction of diffusion of carbon dioxide on the sun day? So carbon dioxide is needed in the plant, so it goes into the plant, so it is D. So the arrow that is showing movement into the plant, and this is through the opening called the stoma. The diagram below shows the plant cell after it was been submerged, or it has been submerged in the solution P for 20 minutes. Look at this. This has detached from the walls or the membrane. The cytoplasm has detached from the walls of the cell. And this can only be when it loses water. So which row describe the water potential of solution P? So solution P has low water potential at the end of it, at the start of experiment, and the condition of cell after 20 minutes. So the solution outside has low water potential than inside cell and plasmolized and flaccid. So afterward it became plasmolized and flaccid. Then this one is paper 2, variant 1, October-November 2021. Which statement about Tagger pressure is correct? So Tagger pressure, it creates the pull in the xylem which allows water to move upward. It allows sucrose to travel upward? No. It is a pressure that is only found in cells containing chloroplast? No. It is the pressure that helped provide support to the plant. Okay, so what is Tagger pressure? So Tagger pressure support the plant. So this is the answer that we are going to, that we are going with. But can you look at the first one? Is that true? So be able to comment and be able to explain the reason why you might think that could be the answer. Which word completes the definition of diffusion? Look at this. Diffusion is a net movement of particles from the region of their higher concentration to the region of their lower concentration down concentration gradient. You see the importance of knowing the definition? So it has to be higher, lower, down, higher, lower, up. So we are looking for higher, higher, lower, down. So the answer is B. This is variant 2, paper 2, paper 2, variant 2, October-November 2021. Which statement about diffusion is correct? Which statement about diffusion is correct? Process require energy? No, it does not require energy. The particles must cross the cell membrane. The net movement of particle up the concentration gradient? No. The process involves random movement of particles. So it involves random movement of particles. So it is not this, but it involves random movement of particles. And the answer is D. Question 7. What type of molecule is labeled X in the diagram? So the whole B setup, as you can see, cell membrane, energy. Just know that that is active transport. So this is okay. So it has to cross there. So we have the cell membrane, then we have that. So mineral ion passing into the root hair cell. What type of molecule is labeled X? So the one that is labeled X is the protein, which is the protein carrier. So it's C. This is paper 2, variant 3, October-November 2024. In which diagram would auxin diffuse into the cell? So diffuse into the cell, which means going into the cell. So which means outside, auxin should be high concentration compared to the inside. So these that have lower, we go to this. Higher inside, higher outside. We can see high auxin concentration in the cell, high auxin concentration outside cell. This cannot happen. So the answer is D. High outside, lower inside. Question 7. Which statement about the role of pressure of water in supporting plant is correct? Look at this. Tagger pressure helps in supporting what? The plant. The pressure of water inside the cell presses inward. It doesn't place inward. Like I said last time, that is Tagger pressure places outside. So the pressure inside places outside. So pressure outside is not outside. Pressure inside the cell presses outward the cell wall. Pressure outside, so it's not outside, so the answer is C. Let us look at this one. That is paper 2, variant 1, May, June 2021. By which process do oxygen, carbon dioxide move between cell and capillaries? That is by diffusion. By diffusion. Which process is involved in the uptake of glucose by epithelial cell of the kidney? Active transport. So glucose uptake, active transport. Let us look at this one. That is paper 2, variant 2, February-March 2021. A jar of gas was placed upside down on the top of the jar containing brown gas. So air, then brown gas. Which processes taken, or which process has taken place? Now look at this. Air particles, you find them here. Then of course, air and brown gases or gas. In other words, these they have mixed uniformly, which means this one is moving up, this one is moving down. So it's a diffusion both up and down, or upward and downward. Okay, so this brings us to the end of the presentation, and I guess you've benefited greatly, okay, from where we are starting from. So make sure that you take down the notes, and of course, if you didn't get anything, it's very important that you go through once again. Otherwise, we can end here. See you in chapter, that is chapter 4. And please do not forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Do not forget to invite others and also share with others. And also you can still you can register for membership on this platform, where you receive videos exclusively for members only, or members only. Also, you can request the topics that you want me to do, and that is only the offer available for those that register for membership. So check out my membership program as well. Otherwise, see you in the next one.